Hey, Shalom, Israel. First and foremost, all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. Uh, you know what I'm saying? Double honors to the elect, the 144,000. You know what I'm saying? Shalom to the righteous remnant. Always, peace and blessings to also the elders that taught this word, for enduring in this truth. Lord willing that they be rewarded. For shamefaced sisters that are at home, teaching the children, guiding the household, to the sincere brothers that's going out to the streets, laboring for Yahweh Bashim Yahushai in sincerity and truth. Shalom, peace and blessing to you as well. Just want to come back with a fast food lesson, man, that not all the 12 tribes are black people. You know what I'm saying? We know that, of course, in scripture, the Israelites or the ancient Israelites were black melanated people. You know what I'm saying? We're going to get an account, to prove that. But just, over time of us being, in captivities, we have married and mixed and mingled among the nations. So, we remained in certain captivities for a long time. And think about when our, nation mixes with another nation, our children start coming out looking like, other nations because, men that go marry a heathen woman and they have a son or a daughter, sometimes that baby, could be coming out looking like the mom. Sometimes we have, moments in our life where they be like, hey, you look a lot like your mom. You take after your dad, so just think about that when it comes, to us mixing, mingling, and populating a certain area for a long period of time, Just like Jake today, some of us are light-skinned, some of our people very fair-skinned to where they look like an Edomite, Some of our people look like other nations, but they are indeed Israelites because of the seed of their father, right? Let's keep going. Let's get this real quick. Let's get Genesis. Let's start at, I want to say 5. Let's start at verse 5. This Genesis 50:5. It says, my father made me swear, lo, I die in my grave, which I have digged for me in the land of Canaan. There shalt thou bury me. Now therefore let me go up, I pray thee, and bury my father, and I will come again, right? So we know and understand that this is talking about Joseph and his brothers getting ready to bury our forefather, Jacob, whose name was later changed to Israel, right? So, let's jump down to now the verse number 9, just to prove that the ancient Israelites were black melanated people, right? It says, and there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company, right? So it was a lot of people, probably out of number. You couldn't even head count, right? Of our people, the Israelites, And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, if I'm pronouncing that right, which is beyond Jordan. And there they mourned with a great and very sore lamentation. And he made a mourning for his father 7 days, right? It's talking about Jacob, when he passed away. Our people were mourning, right? So let's see what other people that when they saw the ancient Israelites said that they looked like, right? It says, and when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites or Hamites, Africans, saw the mourning in the floor of Atad, they said, this is a grievous mourning let me read it again. This is a grievous mourning to the Egyptians. When they saw us mourning for our forefather Jacob, when we were going to bury him, they said that it looked like the Egyptians were mourning. The ancient Egyptians descended from Ham. That's Genesis 10. The Hamites are Africans. We are not Africans. It's a distinction between Hebrews and Africans. We are Hebrews through Shem. They are Hamites because they come from Ham. They are the Egyptians, right? The ancient Egyptians were black melanated people too, right? So it said the ancient Israelites looked like Egyptians. The Egyptians were black, melanated Africans. They had us in captivity. Let's keep going. Wherefore the name of it was called Abel Mizraim. That's the ancient Hebrew word for Egypt is Mizraim, which is beyond Jordan, right? So these people mistaken our ancestors to look like Egyptians, right? Because, obviously when, black melanated people are living together, you can't distinguish sometimes who is who until you ask them, hey, what race are you, But let's get this real quick. Because a lot of our people still think that all the Israelites are supposed to be black melanated people, right? Let's get this. It says, I asked the question, I was basically like, so in the Persian Empire, when Queen Esther was basically in that time period, when, we were allowed to go back home, did every one of our people leave? It says, yes. A vast majority of what they say Jewish population chose to stay in the Persian Empire rather than travel back to Israel. So you got to understand that, yes, we were black and melanated, but we also lived in different captivities for oftentimes a long time. When you look at the years of captivity, how long we was in different ones, we have mixed and mingled, like I said in the beginning of the video, among the nations, right? And sometimes these people, of our what I say, sometimes when our fathers dealt with heathen women, they had children, they might have came out probably looking like another nation, right? This is a great example of showing you the ancient, Persian Empire. So think about our people that live in this province that may look like Iranians, like Iraqians, if I'm pronouncing it right. If I'm not, please forgive me. Don't want to offend nobody, But look at all these different places of what they call the Middle East. Think about all these places right here where Israelites are and have been living for centuries, right? And it says, and its peak under the Achaemenid dynasty around 500 BC, the ancient Persian Empire covered parts of roughly 30 modern countries across the Middle East, Central Asia, and parts of Eastern Europe and North Africa, right? So look at this. Iran, Iraq, Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Israel, and Palestine, Egypt, parts of the Arabian Peninsula, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Oman, and parts of Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Turkmenistan, if I'm pronouncing it right, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, forgive me, Uzbekistan, Jakstan, parts of Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, so forth and so forth, right? So forth and so forth. So you understand that Israelites were scattered here, right? Let's get Isaiah 11. Let's get verse 10, right? It says, Isaiah 11 and 10, it says, in that day, the Lord will reach out his hand a second time to bring back the remnant of his people, those who remain in Assyria, in northern Egypt, northern Egypt, southern Egypt, Ethiopia, and Elam, and Babylonia, Hamath, and all the distant coastlands, right? Let's see if we can get it in another translation, see what it say, right? So you can see all those countries that were just listed, trying to get another translation. Let's see what the AMP says. So we see and understand. Let's get GNT first, see what that say. So we understand that our people have been scattered to these different places, right? Let me see. Okay. But if it don't show it, please by all means look up these places on your own time and understand that Israel was scattered among all nations, right? So yeah. So most of these places are what they call in the so-called Middle East. You got Egypt that's in Africa, then you got Ethiopia, you got what we discussed with Persia, Babylonia, all these, different places. So, Lord willing that you got something from it. Please understand that not all the Israelites today are black melanated people how we were originally. you know, how we were originally when we left Egypt, how we, went to captivity multiple times, mixed among the nations, stayed in certain, provinces during captivity, because not all of our people returned back to the land. Only some remnants came back to the nation or the landmass of Israel when we left captivity, sometimes if we were allowed to leave, right? But, with that, I digress. I give all honor and praise to Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai. I'm going to say Shalom.